Welcome back to another episode of the Beekeeping, guys, and today we are doing some building. This is going to be one of my building videos today, and what we're going to be working on is the hive body. Now, I've never shown these videos before, and it's because I've been actually working my way up in getting the experience and actually building the equipment from time to time, making the mistakes, and then before I actually post the videos, because quality and equipment plays a vital part in building boxes, and I'm gonna even show you an example of that. But for today, we're just looking at what we're gonna be making. Now, the tools that you're gonna need, I'm gonna be showing you those. Alright, so these are the tools that we're going to be looking into, that I think are the relevant tools from left to right. And I'm going to just go through them, tell you what they are, what they do, and then you will see me implementing them as we go through the build. Now, this is your chop saw. Other persons will call it a miter saw, whichever one. And this one is for right angle cuts. Equally important, and I think once you're building anything in the beehive is important, is a table saw. Now, this one is a rigid table saw that I purchased, so this is not a sponsored video. Everything, all the equipments that you see here are purchased out of my own pocket. So for this, we use this to make all the cuts against the fence to get a parallel cut, pretty much. So the final thing here is a jointer, and we're pretty much getting a straight edge with this. I bought the equipment based on in the order of this, and this. And the reason behind that is because you see the necessity of the tools as you build it. I'm going to give you an example here. So these are two separate boxes that you're looking at here. These two boxes were built at two different phases of my beekeeping when I first started. This one was just with only a table saw and a nail gun. This one is with the other tools that you're seeing here. And I'm going to give you a closer look. You can see the quality of the build between both boxes. Separate apart from it shaking versus this one, which is very sturdy. You'll notice the cuts on the box aren't perfect either. So you have gaps in the seams, along the edges, and you can see them here. And the overall build quality of the box isn't that great. And that is due to me not having a miter saw and a jointer at the edge to get the edge perfect, as you can see here. Versus now how I build my box, you can see we have very, very, very tight seams. Everything, this one is built out of maho, by the way, for those who would like to know the lumber. And as you can see, a much sturdy. This is built from rough cut lumber, and this is an overall better quality wood. So with this, I'm able to control the quality of the build. And this is not finished as yet because it needs the handle, which is handled by a router. That is for later down. It's optional. You can just do the mounted handle right there if you'd like. But this is just to give you an idea of the more tools you get to do one specific job, the better the quality will be in the build. Now, just a disclaimer, guys, I am not a woodworker. I have no prior woodworking experience. I'm just a normal guy who decided that I wanted to build my own equipment, so I bought the equipment to do so. I am saying this because I'm not very good with all the measurements, as well as everybody will build their boxes different ways. This is just the way that I do it, and the results that I've gotten, and these are equipment that I have used and tested in the field, so I know that they do what they're supposed to do. If you want to purchase the equipment, it would be better because you have less time and less things to focus on in your operation. So just a disclaimer, guys. All right, so as you can see here, these are the rough cut lumbers that has been planed down, and I would have had a video where I go to get the wood bought and planed down. These are 150 per square foot planed down. So if you know of a better place where I can get it at a cheaper price, that would be awesome. But I get it planed down because my equipment that I have, my jointer, is not really suitable enough for getting it down to the right depth. It's just for the final touches of it. So I'm going to show you how we use the equipment to move from this to the completed box over there. So you'll see that the lumbers are started in two. And that's for a purpose. So this is cut to 44. This is cut a little longer. It's not for a specific reason more than the fact that to fit them in my car, I have to cut them to this length. The length of the box will be cut out of this one over here, and that will be 20 inches in length, and that's just for the rough cut. There's gonna be a final cut to bring it down to 19 and 3/8, but we'll get into that portion when we're getting closer to assemble. For now, we have to get the edges jointed, and then we have to get it cut parallel, so the right angle will be parallel to the face that we jointed to get it in a square. And then we're going to use a table saw to do the final cut to get the other side parallel with the side that we have jointed down there. Super important that you have the wood jointed, so then when you started stacking, the woods will sit perfect with each other. There would not be any gap. Again, very crucial, because if the space is not sealed tight, when it gets down to the more stressful period for the bees, robbing, those little gaps will become crucial. You've seen me had videos where I made boxes before where robbing was taking place and I had to use stuff to stop the gap, guys. Very important that you need to have the joints, to have the edges jointed. You learn from my mistakes. And as indicated, this was just when I never had a lot of the equipments. So in order to get the edges jointed, my jointer is a little small. It's a benchtop jointer. So I normally overcut, so get it down to a manageable space, and then from there I will go ahead and get it jointed and then get the corners cut. So that is what we're doing right now. Alright, so as indicated, guys, the length of the box is normally 20 inches. Now you're gonna realize that down at the edge here is curved slantly. These are rough cut lumbers, so you don't expect to have any straight edge. This is what we aim to correct now. So I'm gonna measure from the lesser cut down here, and this would be 20. Now the whole length of this is 44, which means that I have 2 inches to play with. So because that's how I cut them at the yard, so for transportation. So that means that I can cut this to 22 and know that the other side there will be 22, and it gives me an inch to play with when I'm making the correction. 2 inches to play with. So I'll go ahead and mark it at the 22 mark. And at this point, it doesn't really matter whether or not it's straight or it's not. I am just doing this just to get a cut come down. Remember that this is not jointed. It's just for me to cut. Alright guys, so we have this measured up approximately 20 inches. 22 inches. So we're gonna go ahead and then make the cut along the center. So just like that, we have 2 rough cut lumber. Now this still can be used. It's still salvageable. The only thing is that you're gonna have to have this nailed up when we get down to that part, which I think I'm gonna have this salvage and still make a side panel out of it. Otherwise, you could just have this cut up into strips to use for bottom board for the frame. You never know, whichever comes first for me. So I'll be going through a bunch more to cut them up. You don't really have to see that part. The most important part, you just want to see that I'm cutting them in manageable pieces to be jointed. For us to do the cutting for the sidebar, for the side part, and for that, mine are normally 16.5 inches. So again, because we're gonna be taking into account the overcuts, I'm gonna do each section by 18 inches, and then that'll allow me 2 inches in between where I'm making a final cut to get both sections squared off. So same thing, same process. I'm just cutting each part by 18 inches, and then once I'm done, I'll move on to having the edges jointed, and then we'll come back to this very tool again to ensure that the edges are cut in parallel with that point that we jointed. And then finally we'll move on to the table saw to have the other side of the wood parallel cut to the face that was jointed. Alright, so now that we have gotten the wood down to the manageable width and length that we can manage, we need to now get one of the sides jointed, and by that we're meaning that we're gonna get this into a straight edge, so that way we can put it against the threads of the chop saw to get these at right angle to this. As indicated earlier, it's very important that we don't skip when it comes on to this step, because if your box doesn't line up properly, then it kind of defeats the purpose. Bees are able to get in, and then that will create rubbing. So just gonna quickly run through this. Alright guys, so I've completed the jointing process, and pretty much what it did to the wood was to get this completely straight. So you see, no wobbling, there's no gap in between the straight edge and the wood. So that means that this is perfect, well, not perfectly, but it is straight. So when you have one box sitting on top of the other, you won't have any gaps in between the seams. So that is the importance of this part. Now we're going to do the second part, which is to have here, which is the opposite side, run against the table saw to get this side on the parallel to this side. Alright, so the saw has been dialed in to 9 5/8 inches. So that is gonna be the height of the box. Mine is a little here over 9 5/8 inches, and because not all of my equipment are built to spec, so I still give that little millimeter, I'd say, for any margin of error in the height of the other previous frames that I've built. So now that we have that, we're just gonna have the side that we jointed up against the fence, and that will make this side the same as this side. So let me just run one through so you can see, and then of course I'll run the others off camera. So now if the saw did what it was supposed to do, then this freshly cut side should be just as straight as the side that we just did. And there it is. So absolutely no gap, no wobbling. So now that we do that, this side now is now just as jointed as this without going to the jointer. We have them set perfectly now, and this will be the height for all of the lumber. Now for this scrap that left over, this scrap will be turned into this. They're almost the same height. It will be turned into bottom the bottom strip for the frames. So I try not to waste any material, so this will be converted into something more, again, useful for the box. So I'll just go through and cut everything down, and we'll wrap up the video soon. Alright, so pretty much I'm using the miter saw at the moment, and I'm just making a cut that is gonna be to make this at a right angle to this angle. So I've already made the cut there, and as you can see, it sits flush thereabout. So with that said, we're gonna make that for the other cuts. We're only just cutting this side, and then we're gonna use a table saw to make a final cut along the length of this at 19 1/8. So I'm just running through everything again. We're gonna do a lot of repeating cuts, and because of that we need a table saw for that. Makes the process a lot more easier. Alright, so we are now ready to cut the lumber to its final length, and because of the joint that I'll be doing, it's gonna be 19 1/8. I hope you guys can see that, but that's gonna be 19 1/8. So the saw is already been dialed in, and I'll just go ahead and start doing the cuts for it. And just like that, guys, this part is done now. It's cut to the lines and it's cut to the width. If you're gonna do handles, then this is what you would do with this wood thereafter. If not, we're finished with the wood. Typically for the side, I don't put handles there because I find that it's a little bit awkward to hold the box with it so close to you. So I'd only put handles on the front and back, not to the sides. So for me, this is finished, but if you wanted to go another step and put handles there, then you can do so, and you do that with a router. So for now, I'm just gonna run through all the others now that everything is dialed in and it's cut into the right length, and then we will finish up with doing the front and back, and then we're finished. All right. Okay, so we are now at the final. Okay, so we are now at the final cut, and this will be for the width. And for the width, we are doing 16.5 in measurement. So again, for those who might not know, 16.5. And once we do 16.5, that's gonna be the final for cutting. The next thing that we're gonna be doing is just to make the notches for the frame rest, for the groove for the frame, to assemble the box, and the groove for the hole for the handles. That's it. After that, it's just simply assemble the box and you're good from there. All right, so we're now at the stage where we need to make the frame rest, and then we're gonna also cut the groove for the length of the box, that section of the wood to sit in. So I'm gonna go ahead and for that you're gonna need, and this is optional by the way, you don't have to, but I find that it makes the work faster, is a dado stack of blades. With this you're able to go make the cuts a lot faster. It takes out more chunk of the wood in one pass, If not and you have a regular table saw, then you're gonna have to make multiple cuts in order to achieve the same thing that this can do in one pass. So I'm gonna go ahead and have this set up on the table saw, and I'll give to you the specific measurement to do the cuts. All right, so for the height, this is 1 centimeter. You can see that 1 centimeter high, and then for the distance from where the blade is, this is currently set at almost 2 centimeter. I guess if I'd be going by the tape, it would be 1 7/8, but I'm not really sure how the measurement is done in this. I know that it's just 1 stroke below 2 centimeter. If any one of you guys know exactly what that is, you can just put it down in the comments. Again, not as savvy when it comes on to the measurements. So now that I have this dialed in exactly, what I will be doing now is to run the top section of what I'm going to designate as the top section of the lumber through this section. So for instance, looking at this one here, the outside is a little bit on the rougher edge, and then also if I look on the inside here, I can see that there's some bark, remnants of the bark here on the wood. So because of that, I'm gonna put this part as the top inside to hide this cosmetic issue, as well as to get rid of the bark, because as water or anything else touch this bark is gonna separate from the actual wood. So I'm gonna use this one as an example to run through this. So now that I have this down here, you realize that it's still cut and leave a lot more, but this would probably be 2 passes thereabout for a normal table, blade. So now that I've done this, I'm gonna do the others like this, and then I'll just take the bar away from the length and then just run this through to get rid of the excess material. If I did want to do that, all I could do is just to offset it from what I was doing. There you have it, guys. This would be the frame rest, as you can see. Very nice. And then from there it would be just to make the cut here. So I'm gonna do this pretty much for all of the other lumbers that I have here. Make the frame rest for the front and back, and I'll just quickly run through that one. So continue to watch, guys, as I make the build. So we're now at the final stage, which we've already done the groove here. So the next thing is now is we're gonna make a groove here to facilitate the side. So I've already run a test piece through, and this is what it would look like. So when you're matching it up with the wood for final assembly, in essence what's gonna happen is that this is gonna slide over the front, and this is gonna be what it looks like. And then from there you can go ahead, nail here and nail here for a sturdy hold. So more surface here. If you're gonna use glue, you can, but because I know that for me, eventually I'll probably, if there's anything I know repair when it's glued together, it's very hard to take apart. So I don't use glue when it comes on to the final assembly. I just nail everything together, and if anything I can pull it apart, fix what I need to fix or replace apart, and then put it back together. So this is essentially what we're going to be doing now. We're going to cut these notches into these side part here, the front and back. All right. All right, so this is what the finished product looks like. See, the seams are very nice, very flush. Very sturdy. So now it's just the ultimate test whether or not it's gonna hold 10 frames. So I have 10 shallow, I'm gonna check. So this is 4. Sits perfectly on the frame rest. Another 4, that's 8. And 10. So she holds 10 frame, which is the most important part. There's a little flex here. This is just to space them out adequately. And if I'm gonna use 9 this for a super, I just take out 1. There's enough space. So there you have it, guys, from start to finish. The only thing that we need to do now is slap some paint on this and she's ready for work. Alright, so there you have it, guys. That's how I build my bee boxes. That's from start to finish, all the measurements included. So if you want to try that for yourself, you can. Now it's just for me to go ahead and assemble all the boxes. I think out of everything that I paid about 20,000. That's about 150 US dollars for all the lumber that you saw me use today. I was able to get 17 deep out of it and 2 medium out of those. Still have lots of spare wood leave over that I'm gonna use in other projects, such as making bottom and top bar. Additionally, once I paint these, I think the last time I checked, the lowest price that you can find in Jamaica for a deep is 1,750. That's about either $14-15 ish US. So I was pretty much able to make my money so far. For those of you who want to crunch the number, you can do so, but bear in mind as well, I still have loads of other lumber that I'll be using into other projects, such as making the cover and making bottom board for the frames. Alright, so thanks for watching, guys. As usual, like, share, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you on another one. Bye.